We're super excited to have you guys. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Yep.
As you both know, I'm Emerson. We have Daniel Donovan, one of our Innovation Lab teachers, here with us. And then we have Juliana and Sophia as well. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure, go ahead, Juliana.
Okay. My name is Juliana. I'm in 9th grade, and I've taken a lot of innovation classes. Yeah. I don't know what else you want me to say.
That's good.
That's good.
I'm Sophia. I'm also in 9th grade, and I've also taken a few innovation classes.
Very cool.
I'm Kate. I'm in Austin, Texas, and I'm a prospective parent.
Excellent. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks.
My name is Daniel. I teach in the innovation labs as well as the arts classes. So ceramics and metal fabrication and welding, and then the 3D printing courses, future technologies, digital arts, and robotics and computer coding as well.
Very, very cool. Juliana and Sophia, what innovation lab classes have you guys taken?
I took woodworking.
Nice, very cool. And was that with Mr. Donovan?
No, that was with John Mulhern.
John Mulhern. And Juliana?
I've taken digital arts, graphic design. Is graphic design considered? Yeah, digital arts and graphic design.
Very, very cool. So just as a quick intro, Daniel, could you give us an outline sort of the scope and sort of intent of the innovation lab and the arts classes that you preside over? Thank you.
Let's see. So the innovation lab is, to a large extent, we explore sort of the boundaries of where science and creativity overlap, as well as exploring a lot of the new and emerging technologies and how they connect in society right now, but also how they will in the future, because a lot of the technologies we look at aren't very commonplace yet. They're becoming more commonplace, but even still, even though 3D printing realistically has been around since the 80s, it's only been accessible to consumers in the last maybe 10 years. And even now, it isn't entirely accessible, because as much as they want you to think it's sort of plug and play, it's not. It requires a quite extensive knowledge base. And so we explore things like 3D printing commercially as well as domestically. We explore drones, drone flight, virtual reality, digital arts, and where digital arts sort of overlaps with like commercialism as well as sort of fine arts, and the different interactions that we have together. We look at composition, we look at history, which is really important process of it, you know. So if we look at something in future technologies like magnetic levitation trains, the guy that invented them to launch stuff into space. Trains wasn't the plan. The plan was a magnetic levitation rail system that would launch objects into space through a tube that was evacuated of atmosphere. And it's actually quite brilliant. If you have the money to do it, it would take like 3 countries building it, or Google and Amazon together. But it would use like 150% more efficiency than a chemical rocket, you know, and you could launch way more stuff with little to no failure rate, because there isn't any moving parts. But instead it got made into trains. But all that technology comes from catapults, you know. It comes from looking at Greek and Roman catapults, and then those getting innovated and put on battleships, on aircraft carriers, steam catapults, and now we use electromagnetic catapults on the aircraft carriers, as well as launching trains, you know. So all the technologies that we look at span sort of the whole breadth of human history, just in different forms and in different ways.
That's super interesting. I didn't know that. Even again, like I kind of say this to a lot of families, that I learn things about loss pretty frequently. but I didn't know that your art and innovation classes ran so congruently in their mission to articulate the history and theory behind a lot of the things you're doing, as in the same way that the curriculum does, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
It becomes easier with things like, you know, if you're looking at catapults, it's easier to find connections way back in history. Whereas with digital arts, it's a little more cerebral or meta, because historically we're looking at composition, why we place things places, how people look at, view, and see art, and how that functions psychologically on you, like how we use color, what people think when they see certain colors, and a lot of that, I mean, you're looking at advertising and advanced graphic design. We get more into that. It's always an interesting conversation, because a lot of times, until you really dig into it, people don't realize how intentionally advertisers are even picking colors to act on you psychologically. Like BP, British Petroleum, changed their whole logo after the disaster, and they changed it to the sunflower, this green and yellow. And if you're not sort of aware, you know, you might think because it looks like a very natural design. It looks like something that's good for the earth. It's a sunflower, and it's green and it's yellow. And it's why John Deere picks green, you know, because they want to associate themselves with things that are seen as being having longevity, having a connection to the earth, having a connection to nature, stability, and different colors all say different things, and people pick them very intentionally to subconsciously make you think certain things.
yeah.
And
So in the same way that a lot of other classes at Ross work in terms of interdisciplinary studies, your arts department does the same thing, that you're looking at the psychology of color, the history of color, as well as producing color and creative things.
absolutely.
That's pretty cool. Just so, Daniel, you've worked in a couple different maker spaces, to my knowledge, and by a couple I mean many. How does the Ross makerspace sort of set itself apart in terms of what you're experiencing in the space? Is it the accessibility to the faculty? Is it
Well, it's really incredible. I mean, the campus is incredible. The makerspace itself too it really stands out. The only other space I've worked in that's comparable would be at Idlewild Arts Academy, which is, I mean, is a massive arts magnate school boarding academy on the West Coast. And it, you know, and so to find spaces like this, you really have to find schools that are sort of at the top of their level, because I think it seemed like, maybe I talked to my dad, I talked to my grandfather, and it seems like spaces like this used to be more commonplace, where you would go to high school and you would have metal shop, and you would have wood shop, and you would have automotive shop, and you would be like dismantling a car and learning how to put together and learning how to change your oil and learning how to build a table, and you know, but all of that stuff was removed from schools in the 80s. In the 90s, it was completely gone. You know, you wouldn't see a high school anywhere that had a wood shop and a metal shop, and you got to learn how to weld. And so reintegrating not just this sort of more intellectual technologies, but also the skills-based technologies, like and woodworking can be very intellectual. I mean, the Japanese, you start learning when you were 7, and they would build elaborate like joinery and stuff like that without plans and without rulers, all by eye. And you know, but they would learn to be masters from an incredibly young age. But I think it's really integral to the sort of functioning of the mind to be growing up in an educational system where you're able to use your hands and think sort of three-dimensionally about how to create. It changes the way that your mind forms. I mean, Stanford did a brilliant study looking at kids who grew up putting physical blocks in physical holes and physical problems, and kids who grew up just with devices. And there's an actual whole section of your brain that lights up when you're solving physical problems. And if you solve those physical problems in 2 dimensions, that part of your brain doesn't light up at all. And you never learn how to engage three-dimensionally with the world. And so you actually don't develop the ability to solve problems three-dimensionally. When you look at a three-dimensional puzzle, you kind of don't know what to think, and you have to learn how to do it. And so being able to do that at this level from 8th grade all the way through 12th grade, I feel that it really not just teaches you how these new and emerging technologies function and how they can work for you, but it makes you a more well-rounded human and a better problem solver, a better thinker.
Yeah, cool. Sophia and Juliana, maybe you guys could speak to that. Like, what was your experience in your innovation lab and makerspace classes? Sophia, maybe you could go first and say a little bit about your woodshop class.
I thought it was really fun because like what Daniel was saying, that like you get hands-on with it. So especially with having Mulhern in the class, he's like a really good teacher with that stuff. So I thought it was really fun to like actually make things, since in most of our classes it's just like writing things down. So like I think the experience of like making actual things and like taking home like a cutting board that I made, and I was like, wow, like I made this. So it was really fun.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Juliana?
In like digital arts was my favorite class. I really like using Photoshop, so we did a lot of that. We like made our own things, and I learned a lot about Photoshop. Like I didn't know that much. I did do some Photoshop, but I learned a lot in that class, and it was really fun for me because I really like it.
Very cool. So you guys both went into your makerspace classes not having taken many or any other makerspace classes, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool, because I know like I'm all thumbs when it comes to this sort of thing. And having a teacher like Daniel would make it much easier for me to enter one of those spaces and feel confident. But you guys felt comfortable right away going into something that was brand new, which is pretty cool. That is great. So Daniel and Juliana and Sophia, do you guys feel that outside of the classroom at Ross, you're able to pursue creative endeavors, particularly as they relate to, particularly as they relate to the innovation lab? Like, Daniel, do you find that a lot of students come to you and ask to be in the space outside of hours?
Sure. More specifically for senior projects, right? Like I had a lot of individuals come that the ideas and the thoughts they were having about their senior projects involved the makerspace, and so they were in there outside of hours and on their own time sort of exploring and using the space. But it's not solely limited to seniors or senior projects. I mean, there have been other individuals that have wanted to use the 3D printers for something, have been interested in animation. I mean, even over the Field Academy, Cassius was really interested in how to recreate this 1970s film intro where these circles came in, bop, 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 and then pictures popped into the circles, and then they went diagonal, and then they were flashing all over. And it was the intro to a show, I'm not going to remember the name, but I mean, it was really cool. And so we used, there's also, I forgot to mention, but I also teach animation. And so we used Adobe Animate to recreate that exact intro, but he used pictures from the Argentina trip to create a short film.
That was for his project, right?
Yeah, it turned out really interesting. I wish I had a copy of it here.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Cassius is a fun dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really
and, ceramics too. I mean, all the classes really, you see, because it's an opportunity, like Sophia said, it's an opportunity to get hands-on and do something, physically making something, and it's less of, there's no homework. Well, there's a bit, you know, go look up an artist and bring an artist in or something like that, but to a large degree, you're not taking it home with you. And so in that way, I think they're really brilliant classes too, because when you leave the class, you don't have to take it with you. You're not going home with a 5-page history paper to write and think about all the time, unless it's something you want to do, you know, and it gives you the opportunity to take a sort of mental break and look forward to the class. And then when you leave, you can focus on other things if you want to, but a lot of it you can't do other places. You know, you can't do woodshop or metalsmithing unless you're at the studio together. And so it gives you something to look forward to in the day as well, which I think is good.
Absolutely, yeah. I can imagine that's a nice reprieve from getting lectured at for 3 hours to go and bang a piece of metal into a wall or something.
Sometimes Photoshop can be a bit lectury. It's a bit, Juliana, I'm sure you can speak to that. It's a bit to go through all the tools. It's so many tools.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be frustrating too because you can't find the right tool or it just doesn't work the way you want it to.
Very, very cool. I just want to ask Kate and Nina, do you guys have any questions at all? Let me just unmute you guys for a hot second. Actually, I'm just going to leave you guys unmuted.
I just sent one in. I just was wondering, like, do you have to
Let's see, I can go through it. So how many spaces in the day are open to these type of creative classes? Do the 9th graders need to take prerequisites? The class Juliana took in Photoshop, digital arts, we go through introduction to Photoshop for beginners, and we go all the way through, and I'll show you some of the projects here right now. But there is no prerequisites required. If you're in 9th grade, you can take metal shop, you can take welding and fabrication, you can take wood shop, ceramics, digital arts, and animation. A lot of the students I get have never done any of it before. So in animation, we go from flip books through Disney Mickey Mouse style cell shading. We go into some claymation. We go into using Adobe Animate to do digital animation, and we'll create a small avatar, a GIF of yourself that walks across the screen and then walks back, and you'll put a background and a foreground. But we just start with doing a bouncing ball, you know? And it's really, and that's just to learn the tools, because the real thing is when you get into these programs is the scope of what they can do is really daunting. And so finding ways to break that down into smaller pieces is the work of it, you know? But everyone has access to them, and we have, how many spaces? Let's see. We have the metal shop, we have the wood shop, the ceramic studio, and then the innovation lab is 2 rooms, really. It's the classroom, and then the makerspace upstairs. The makerspace has 5 3D printers, 1 stereolithography resin printer. It has a CNC machine. We have 4 drones, a massive amount of robotics for the robotics and computer coding class. Everything from sumo battle bots to just programmable LEDs and things like that. I mean, it's too much to list. I have lockers and lockers full of robotics and coding equipment, but it's all introduced at a very you know, entry level sort of point of view. And then the kids that are more advanced, if they want to take the assignment and change it and alter it to some degree to suit their advanced understanding of the program, as long as they keep the core fundamental need of the assignment in place, they can add whatever they want to it. And that's just a conversation.
Danny, your electives are trimester based, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So Kate, there would be 2 or 3 spots in a student's schedule per trimester.
Correct.
So over the year, there would be anywhere from 6 to 9 available slots that a student. So if Daniel's offering over the course of the year, I guess anywhere from 6 to 9 classes, a student could take that many with him.
Right.
the students,
Can I
feel like
add?
you get to take all the electives that you want to take in those 9 slots?
Juliana, Sophia, what do you think?
Well, I think that yes, because we also get another slot for wellness and language, so we don't have to add to that in the electives. Mostly, like, electives are just art classes. There are a couple like classes that add to your core classes. Like there are some extra science classes and math classes, but for the most part, I feel like I'm gonna do everything that I want to do this year.
I think, like, especially for woodworking, there's only like an 8-person limit per class.
Yes.
So I actually had to go on a waiting list to get into the class. So if you're like a senior or junior, you're more likely to get all the classes you want. But if you're like a freshman like I am, I think it's like a little harder against like the chances of other students since seniors have first pick.
It's the same with Metal Shop, and the unfortunate thing, and well, maybe not unfortunate, but just because of the safety issues, yeah, we can't have any more than 8 in metals or wood shop because we're using, I mean, it's band saws, table saws, chop saws, all the drill motors, the drill press, the stand-ups, the upright sander. You know, there's a lot for John and myself to keep an eye on when we're doing welding and when we're doing wood shop. So it is like Sophia said, those 2 classes can be more difficult to get into, and seniors and juniors are given preference. And it's just, to some degree, we want older students who have been at the school longer to be in the classes to offer sort of a certain level of responsibility around the tools like that. 8th graders are not allowed in, on, or around any of the wood shop or metals equipment. So you aren't even allowed in the shop physically until you're in 9th grade. And then it can be, what, did you get in 9th grade, Sophia?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. So it's not impossible.
Yeah.
So, students, what electives did you do this year? And did you get interested in anything that you didn't know you would be interested in? And also, I'm really curious how you're taking these classes online.
Do you want to go first?
So I actually took woodworking last trimester, so I didn't have to go online for it. But for like other classes that I did want to do, I couldn't do them, so I had to like switch up my schedule to be able to do it online.
But what other classes did you take this year? What out of those 9 that you were planning to take?
The first trimester I took graphic design, and I'm totally blanking on what I took, but this trimester that we just passed, I took molecular genetics and woodworking. So yeah.
The first trimester I took introduction to sculpture and acrylic painting. And then this past trimester I took graphic design and digital arts. And right now online of those art classes, I'm taking printmaking. We're just like watching documentaries on like printmaking. Yeah.
Right. So the online courses are a little bit different for all the classes that are being taught. Let's see. I can tell you for the 5 that I'm doing what we're doing. I mean, digital arts. There's demos that I post, screen capture videos of going through an assignment from beginning to end, and then the students watch those videos and go through making the project. And printmaking right now, like Juliana said, we're watching a documentary on linotype, which is an old type of typography press that was used for newspapers that are really fascinating machines. I mean, you would type, and as you typed, it would cast the type out of hot lead, lock it into place, print, and then milt it. And it was like an all-in-one. It was an incredible piece of technology. But we'll go through and do a worksheet sort of to fill out along with the documentary. But the other classes, let's see, ceramics, everyone has chose a relevant ceramic artist to research and put together a PowerPoint presentation that we'll share with everybody, and everyone will look through everyone's PowerPoints. But I know things like math, they're putting together videos where they're using tablets to write out math problems and go through all the work, and then kids are engaged in that way online. Do you know any of the other classes, how it's working?
Yeah, I'm only privy to what's going on in the history department, and it's a lot of sort of recorded lectures, a lot of introduction to research,
Right.
going over that type of thing. Nothing quite as exciting as what Daniel's doing, but still, it's I think they're doing their best to keep it pretty engaging.
There's robotics and computer coding. And we're partnered with VidCode, which is an online based coding curriculum. And so, and that way students log into VidCode and it walks them through existing online curriculum and assignments that teach you everything from how, like when you create a meme, if I've got an app that makes a meme, it's doing the coding for you. So when you type in text, there's coding that's happening in the background, and VidCode will teach you how to create that meme through code, not through an app that does the code for you. And so we're learning how to create like Instagram or Photoshop filters, memes, and different things that are sort of relevant now. I mean, there's a host of other things like programming LEDs and stuff that we'll do. But that website walks through with existing online curriculum. And then I get online and I can answer questions and help facilitate. But to a large degree, the VidCode website is the full curriculum that already exists for the coding. And so it walks each kid through 7 steps per week for coding. And then I can go through and look at their progress.
Cool. Very, very cool. Do we have any other questions?
If you would like, I can show you some of the student work.
I was like, yeah.
Let's see. So I'm going to share my screen here and we'll look at a few. We'll look at Juliana's.
Getting put on the spot, Juliana.
Let's see. Emerson will have to enable screen sharing for me though.
Okay, let me do that. All participants. Is it good now?
Let's see. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is one of the basic introduction projects we do right here. And it's just using basic color blocks and cutting them out to create a sort of landscape. This student grabbed a couple pictures to add in. We do a money project where we look at the history of currency and different countries' currencies and different ways they use to create sort of anti-counterfeiting measures. This is the back side of Juliana's. This was a student, Tim, and he did based on duck money. But then here's another one of the landscapes here. Sophia Gorban was a really good one. And like so composition wise, this is atmospheric perspective, right? Things get lighter as they get farther away. And so we talk about all the sort of composition elements like that. When you're outside looking at mountains, they get lighter as they get farther away because atmosphere has moisture and gases in it, and all of that gets in the way of the mountain and makes it appear a little bit lighter. But we'll look at a couple of those, and then we also get into some different types of digital arts like this, where you can use a tripod to take multiple pictures of yourself, and then we use the Photoshop tools to bring all those photos of yourself together to create a sort of multiple me picture to some degree, you know? But that's just a few of them. I don't know how to exit screen sharing.
The money project is pretty cool.
The
Yeah.
money project was a lot of fun. There are some really good ones. Let's see if 5 positions, Leo, Aaron. If I have any more of them here, the one that Sophia did for the Ross School, it was called Rossi's. I know I have it right here.
Is that the one with Bill's
Yeah,
face on them?
Bill Ahern.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Here it is. Should just take a couple seconds. But this is the back of it.
Whoa.
And so learning how to use gradients like the Rossi's up here, learning how to use different filters and overlaying imagery and stuff like that to make it really look like money. But at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of tools involved in going through the whole process. So the students really learn how to use Photoshop. I mean, by the time even just the beginning class is over, I mean, Juliana's like a Photoshop pro now. She can do almost anything with it. And then this is the front of it. But turned out quite well.
A stunning view of our headmaster.
Yeah.
Hey, could you shut the screen sharing off because
You
So
got
you go down to the bottom of your screen. There's a stop share screen.
oh, I see where it was. Okay, right.
I gotcha. And cool. Well, Kate or Nina, if you guys have any other questions, we'd love to hear them.
Nina, do you have any questions? You're muted. If you're talking, we can't hear you.
Let's see.
Well, I just want to say that you guys have literally everything at Ross, and it was very helpful. And I mean, the projects, they're really, really impressive. So I'm really glad I'm accepted at Ross.
Excellent. So are we.
Yeah, we're excited about it too. And we'll be excited to see the Nina dollars you produce next year. Cool.
Juliana, was this your first year as a ninth grader? Or
Yes. Yeah.
I can't remember. Sophia, are you also a ninth grader? Or
Yeah, I'm a ninth grader, but this
Okay,
is my
sorry,
second year at Ross.
and it was your first year at Ross?
This was actually my second year.
Okay. And what did you say, Juliana? You said
Well, I went to Ross in kindergarten, first grade, but yeah, it's my first year back.
so. How was your adjustment to?
It was great. I used to go to Pearson, which is a school in Sag Harbor. And I like Ross a lot better because it has more options for classes to take. At Pearson, you could only take for electives an art or music class. Now I can take a lot of different things.
You have a host of electives that you can take.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't stop at the innovation lab, you know. I mean, there's like Chinese calligraphy, all kinds of other classes that you can take as electives that are taught by all of the other teachers. And so innovation lab is electives, but it's also, you can get a STEAM certificate, which is science, technology, engineering, math, and art, right? And that STEAM certificate is something that goes a long way into your college acceptance for specific colleges. If you're trying to get into robotics-based or engineering-based sort of curriculum like MIT or something like that, having a STEAM certificate is really brilliant, and that's something that we offer. It means taking a lot of advanced placement classes, and you have to take all the innovation courses, robotics, computer coding, future technologies, and you know, but it is something interesting additional to them just being sort of electives and interesting classes. It offers a certificate that you'll take with you to university.
I think, Kate, I imagine Roderick's going to probably spend a lot of time in the innovation lab and in Daniel's classes. They seem like they'd be a good match.
Yeah.
Daniel, Kate's son Roderick is big into robotics.
Oh, he is. Okay.
And that sort of thing.
Brilliant. Well,
He
there's
might be in your 11 o'clock meeting. We're an hour
Right.
earlier.
Yep.
I don't know.
there's a lot of opportunity available to learn and sort of do, you know. The robotics is fun with 3D print robots, like sort of analog robots that only function on their own power. And then, because the 3D printing is interesting because you can 3D print plastic springs and things that will make the robot sort of, you can do wind up 3D printed robots. But, and then we get a bit more into the sort of battle bots and solar bots and things like that.
So students, what's one thing you wish was different about Ross?
I wish there were more students because, and I know we're getting more students, but sometimes the classes are really small. I mean, it's not that bad. It's just we have 40 kids in our grade.
Sometimes the classes are.
Yeah. But I mean, it can be nice. It's
like more boarding students, because we'd have like,
yeah.
I feel like our classes are made up of like 90% D students, even though there's like a lot of boarding students that go, but I don't know, there's not that many in our grade, but there's a lot of like, especially the juniors have like a really big like class, so that's cool, but our grade doesn't have that many.
So the
The
ninth,
juniors have 4 sections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Daniel?
well, I just noticed you'd asked Kate if there was robotics type tournaments that we do, and there is not, but it's something that so this is myself and my partner Andrea, she's in admissions. We just moved here from California. I was the head of the innovation lab there at Wild Arts. And so coming in now, we're sort of just hitting the ground running. And so finding robotics type tournaments that that we can engage in with the school would be something I'm very interested in. But it also means finding a student base that wants to, which we don't have yet, that wants a robotics club and is interested in facilitating that on their own behalf as well. So, you know, I can facilitate and help, but I've got to get the students interested in it too.
I don't want to get on Emerson's bad side, so now I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite thing about Ross?
I have no bad side for you to get on, trust me. But you see why I feel that it's such a good fit for Roderick. Having teachers like Mr. Donovan and peers like Juliana and Sophia, I think it would just be an awesome fit for him. But yeah, go ahead and answer that question for her.
I just have a question. What grade is he going into?
9th grade. Sorry, I wish it was 10th grade for your class size.
My favorite thing about Ross is probably I like the integrated curriculum, because in our core classes we're like, for example, in English we're reading Macbeth, and in performing arts we're learning about the acting in it. So it's all connected. And also the food is really good.
Yeah.
What about you, Sophia?
I think that my favorite part is the electives, because there's just like, there's so many that you can take. So like, let's say for me, I was really interested in art and science. So I wanted to kind of compare which one I liked more. So I did an art class, and then I did like a more sciencey class, and then I can kind of like see what I would like to go more into the future, since I have so many options. So it was cool.
What was your favorite academic class or project that you did this year in one of your core classes?
Oh, core classes.
Or what was one surprising thing about one of your academic classes?
I really like our IP class, because it's kind of our whole grade is together instead of split into 2 sections. So we all get to do projects together. So there was actually a project we did where we like recreated a scene from a book that we were reading in English. So that was really fun to do, since we got to like work as a grade instead of just like our sections.
What does IP stand for?
Integrated project.
Okay.
So IP is a once a week. It's a 3-hour block, or is it 2.5 hours?
It's like 2 periods plus morning break.
Yeah. So it's about 2 hours, and grades gather as a whole, and then they work together, as Sophia said, on a specific project that they feel exemplifies the integration of the curriculum.
Did you collaborate on that project?
Like, what do you mean collaborate?
Did you work, was it a project you did on your own, like your own?
No, it was a group project.
The whole group, or like little groups? Or?
It was a 4-person group. Yeah.
Was that challenging?
I think it was a little challenging for us, because one of our group members got the flu during the time that we were doing it. So we couldn't really like be around her, since she was like really contagious, but we worked around it, and she still got to like incorporate like some of the editing. So I think we did a good job on it.
Cool. Very nice. Well, I think we're about at time here. But thank you, Kate and Nina, for joining us this morning.
And just out of interest,
Yeah.
how many electives can you take?
Go ahead, Daniel.
It's 3 per semester, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Per trimester.
Yep.
Per trimester. So 6 electives a year.
9.
Or
Okay.
9. Sorry.
We got a lot going on this morning.
9 electives per year, 3 per trimester.
Perfect. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Well, thank you guys both for joining us. And we're looking forward to seeing Roderick in the 11 o'clock. And if Daniel, if you have any closing statements you'd like to make, we're ready for them, or we're good to go.
I have a speech prepared. No, it was a pleasure to meet you both, Nina and Kate, and a pleasure to talk to you. I'm happy to have a chance to talk about the school with you. So.
And thank you for our 2 stars, Juliana and Sophia. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. So we'll see you both at 11. And Kate and Nina, I'll be in touch later on today. Thank you guys for coming this morning. All right.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.